It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming. I'm Wendy Corr, bringing you headlines from the Cowboy State Daily newsroom for Thursday, April 25th. A Wyoming company with international clout that's bolstered the state's energy industry for decades is jumping into the nuclear business. Gillette-based L&H Industrial, a 60-year-old industrial machinery company in the coal-rich Powder River Basin, has partnered with nuclear technology innovator BWX Technologies Incorporated. Energy reporter Pat Mayo says the partnership is part of a blockbuster deal to launch a multi-billion-dollar industry in the micronuclear reactor field.
Because what they're trying to do together is build an infrastructure in the Wyoming state specifically of doing nuclear components that would be used to manufacturing them here to assemble and build nuclear reactors that could be sold anywhere, just small ones, but they want a U.S. industrial base.
The partnership also has plans to provide consulting services and operate and lease energy generated from the micronuclear reactors. When the black bear population increases in an area, so does the number of people reporting they saw Bigfoot. A new study reports that, in other words, more often than not, people who report seeing a Sasquatch probably saw a bear, according to Outdoors reporter Mark Hines.
That kind of establishes a connection with something that a lot of people have said for a long time, that maybe not all, but certainly a high percentage of Bigfoot reports are actually bears just standing up and walking around, doing things that bears do. So, we still have some compelling Bigfoot reports from Wyoming that might or might not be easily explained away as bears. So we'll just keep that as an open-ended question for now, whether we've got Sasquatch in Wyoming.
Retired federal ecologist Chuck Neal of Cody said he's certain there's no such thing as Bigfoot. He says it's just the product of people's overwrought imaginations. Well, over the weekend, Senator John Barrasso supported President Joe Biden's approval of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, which continues the federal government's authority to conduct warrantless surveillance on U.S. citizens. Barrasso told political reporter Leo Wolfson he supported the bill because he believes it strengthens law enforcement's ability to fight terrorism. But members of the Wyoming Freedom Caucus are outraged.
The Freedom Caucus thinks this has been weaponized by agencies like the FBI and other groups to unjustly spy on Americans, which was, in certain circumstances, was pointed out, such as some of the 2020 Black Lives Matter protests, and then the January 6th, 2021 Capitol riot as well. Some of the people, it was kind of found that the FBI had gone a little too deep on some of its investigating on those issues.
Fellow Wyoming Senator Cynthia Lummis voted against the bill, as did U.S. Representative Harriet Hageman. Casper mountaineer Dr. Joe McGinleys' quest to climb Mount Everest has been temporarily blocked as the Chinese are prohibiting foreigners from entering the Tibet region. But Cowboy State Daily's Dale Killingbeck reports that McGinley, who's on a quest to summit the highest peaks on all 7 continents, has a backup plan through Nepal.
Dr. Joe McGinley sent us a text and told us to check out his social media because his plans had to change as he's pursuing his 7th summit. So on his Facebook page, about an hour later, we saw that his intent to climb the north face of Mount Everest is not going to be able to happen because the Chinese won't allow them into the country. So they're pivoting and they're going to go to the south side of Mount Everest. And he said he plans to be at that base camp probably May 3rd or May 4th. Meanwhile, they're going to climb another mountain about 19 miles from Everest that goes up to 22,000 feet to keep in shape in their acclimatization. So Dr. Joe is definitely having an adventure.
McKinley aborted his attempt to climb Mount Everest last May after finding crowded and unsafe conditions on the south side of the mountain, one of the reasons he selected the north side attempt this year. And trees are difficult to grow in much of the state, so people put a lot of effort into keeping their trees alive and thriving. But Travis Smith of Glen Rock doesn't do anything to keep a centerpiece tree in his yard alive. That's because his natural showstopper has been dead for a few million years. And for $20,000, it can be yours, reports Cowboy State Daily's Andrew Rossi.
He's got a 1-ton segment of a petrified tree in his yard. It's just a lawn ornament. It's been handed down through the generations in his family. And he said he's tired of having to mow around it. So he's hoping that somebody out there will be interested and be willing to come pick this thing up and take it home with them. There's no shortage of petrified wood in Wyoming, but a petrified tree section of anything is pretty exciting. And this one's actually hollow in the middle, which, as somebody who's an enthusiast in paleontology, I can't say I've ever seen before.
Smith is listing the prehistoric piece of tree trunk simply as brown and in new condition. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the subscribe button on cowboystatedaily.com. I'm Wendy Corr for Cowboy State Daily.